Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be giving my update on anime of the stuff that I've been watching over the past couple months or so. It is May, an anime month, and I've been watching a bunch of stuff. I've really been engrossing myself in anime over the past couple of months. It's been a big focus, so I wanted to give an update on the movies and shows within that medium that I've been watching and give some recommendations as well. So let's get ready to jump in. Welcome once again, my name is Austin, and on this channel we talk about one of my favorite things in the world, movies, and how I tie together my faith with film and everything that's in between. Anime is one of those things that I've just fallen more and more in love with the more I dig into it and check out more stuff. It does things that traditional TV shows and movies just don't do, emotionally and character-wise, and just some of the bonkers stuff that anime is willing to go to is really interesting and makes for some of the best and most exciting storytelling, I think. So let's jump into what I've been watching lately. First, one of my favorite shows that I've been watching this year is Season 2 of Vinland Saga. Now, I talked about Vinland Saga in my previous anime video from a few months back. Now, Season 2 of Vinland Saga really subverted expectations for it. The first season is really high octane, very action, violence heavy. There's a really good story to it, but it really focuses in on that really cool, really exciting action. The anger that Thorfinn is feeling throughout that season is really the prevalent theme and focus of it. Now in season 2, it completely goes in a different direction, which really put some people off. But for me, I wanted to stick with it and see what they were doing because I really trusted the storytelling on the foundation that was built in season 1. And season 2's story has been incredible. I've really enjoyed it. It takes everything and slows it down, dials it back from what they started doing in season 1, and we really get to look at what has all of this anger and resentment that Thorfinn's held on to for so many years done to his soul and him as a person. And it's really interesting getting that introspective look at him and the effect that all these things have had, and him realizing all of those things and trying to change himself and trying to be a more caring and genuine person, of not just that anger-fueled, resentful teenager, young adult. It's been a few years now since season 1. He's removed himself from so many things that really had a negative impact on him personally, and it's really cool getting to see that different look at him. We also get to look at some of the other characters from season 1 and the events that took place in season 1 and how that has affected them as well. It's building towards some really exciting stuff that will lead to some more action, but I think it's going to be more purposeful and intentional in the subsequent story that they're telling. We're getting towards the end of season 2, which is really crazy. It's gone really quick for the slow pace that it's moved at, but I can't wait to see how they wrap things up and where this show continues to go, because it's been one of my favorite series. Next, we're going to go through a few quick ones right here. I watched Cowboy Bebop, which is one of those series that's considered all-time greats for a lot of people, and I really respect that opinion. I didn't necessarily share it in watching the show. I really enjoyed it, but a lot of the show was very episodic and one-off adventures, which can be fun, and it was with these characters, but I'm just someone who appreciates more of an overarching story. This show kind of started with a really interesting setup and story, did a lot of episodic stuff with some really good story stuff, staggered in between there, and then we came back around to it at the end of the season. So it was really good, but maybe not all-time greats that I would consider based on, where a lot of people are with the show. Now, I didn't grow up watching it, and I can totally appreciate what it did for the format of anime. It was beautifully animated. I loved the music for it. The characters were interesting. The show just didn't resonate with me as much as it does for many other people. I also watched Goblin Slayer, which I was just about to watch last time I gave an update. I really liked it. It had a really strong and shocking opening, but the rest of the show just couldn't necessarily capture that same emotion and drive that the beginning had. It was still a good story as it continued, but not one that I felt as latched onto as I was kind of hoping. So it is a good show, and it's an interesting kind of D&D type mix with the medieval atmosphere that it has, but one that I didn't love as much as I'd hoped. Another one that I did start, did not end up sticking with and watching the rest of was Chainsaw Man, the first season. I kind of liked the initial opening and setup, but the main focus of the story of just the main character trying to sleep with his boss, essentially, that's not something I relate to or resonate with. So I didn't care as much for that main focus of his main drive through the story. And I mean, I really liked the action. It was a really interesting world to explore, but just that constantly recurring theme wasn't something I necessarily cared about. And I mean, there's a lot of people who do love this show still, and I respect their opinion. It just wasn't necessarily for me. So I only watched maybe the first half of the first season and dropped off of that one. Next, one of the big ones that I have totally engrossed myself in, as you probably know if you've been watching my channel, Dragon Ball. I finally got into one of the big ones for anime. I watched the entirety of the original Dragon Ball series, all 153 episodes, I think, and really enjoyed it. I liked it from the beginning, and it just continued to get better as the show went on. And in the end, I thought it had a great ending as it led into where Dragon Ball Z goes. So now I've also been watching Dragon Ball Z Kai, and I've been really enjoying that so far. And it's just been really cool to finally get into something that I've heard so much about and experience it for myself. So I have absolutely loved the show so far. It's such an interesting world, really cool, really fun characters. There's so much to explore within it. So I currently finished almost with the Frieza saga, for those of you who are familiar with the show. I have a couple episodes left in that as of recording this video, but really do enjoy it and love it. If you want a little bit more of an in-depth look at what I thought of the original Dragon Ball series, I did do a video on it on the channel if you want to check that out. Not too long ago, just go back in my videos a little bit, and then I'll probably do another one for Dragon Ball Z when I finish it. I'm going through Z Kai for those who care, so it's a bit of a shorter, more condensed, action-heavy focused story as far as this series goes. All right, a couple more shows, and then I want to talk about some anime movies. So I've been watching the newest Attack on Titan episodes. We are still in the final season. We're in the third year of the final season, but there has been so many jokes around that. But jokes aside, this show is incredible still. I've been with it since the beginning. I started watching not long after season 1 started and have been fully engrossed and enamored with how incredible the story is for this show. The characters are so in-depth and interesting, and the story is incredible in all that it spans and contains. And these final chapters that we're in right now, as there's, I think, one more special episode, as they're going to wrap everything up and we're going into the finale, I can't wait to see how they wrap it up, because I've loved it so far. There's such a divide amongst the world of Attack on Titan as well as the fans on whose side they're on, and it's so interesting to see the different perspectives and interpretations of it. So it's an incredible show, one I can't recommend enough. I've been loving these final chapters. We got the one so far, and then we have one more, I think, coming in September as we're finally going to wrap up the show. So one of my favorite shows of all time, probably, and one that I can't recommend enough. So Attack on Titan, these final episodes are some of the best of the series, and I've absolutely been enjoying them. And then lastly, TV show-wise, I'm about halfway through this one, and that's The Ancient Magus Bride, halfway through the first season, that is. So this is a really cool, really interesting fantasy series. I think I had it recommended through a podcast that I listened to, an anime podcast, and he set it up and it sounded really interesting to me. He talked about it being kind of a blend of a lot of Harry Potter stuff, magic-wise, and a lot of kind of Lord of the Rings-esque type stuff when it comes to the world and the magical beings that fill it kind of thing. And there's a little bit of like Full Metal Alchemist in there too, with kind of the alchemy side of things. So there's a world with alchemy, magic, fantastic creatures, all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. So we follow this girl who kind of has this dark magical ability that has always made her an outcast in life. Her own family doesn't want her. And so she finally decides to give up and sell herself into slavery just to get something out of it. And so she does this, but this man that ends up buying her is a magician. And he sees what kind of dark abilities she has and wants to shape those and hone those for something more valuable and something better. And he's also looking for someone that he can kind of fall in love with and eventually marry one day. So he hopes that that would be her. So it's a very interesting mix of fantasy, alchemy, and romance and drama. It's really cool. So I've really loved the world so far. It deals with some really heavy themes and emotions, obviously, as you can kind of probably tell from her kind of giving up on herself and her life and her value as a person, and him kind of giving that back to her, and her appreciating herself for who she is and seeing that value in herself. So I really like it. It's got some really cool and just interesting themes. They're in season 2 right now, but like I said, I'm about halfway through season 1, so I'm catching up on a couple other things. Then I'm planning on kind of finishing up that season, and then I'll get into season 2 as well. So it's been a really great show that I really love so far. And finally, movie-wise, I've been getting into some more Ghibli stuff, but before I talk about that, I do want to talk about Paprika, which is an anime from, I think it was 2003 that came out, and it was one of those ones that I had never really heard about, and unbeknownst to me until I watched it, is a friend of mine, one of his favorite anime movies probably, but a friend loaned it to me to check out, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. It's basically Inception in anime form, but because it's in that anime form, it's more bonkers, it's crazier, you're really not sure what all you can trust and believe all throughout of what is the dream world, what isn't. It's a mind-blowing experience. It's got really great music, interesting characters, really well animated. The background scenes are really creative and detailed that I really liked. And as you can probably tell by comparison to Inception, the story's pretty crazy. It's wild stuff that happens. So that's a really great movie that I also recommend. And then, like I said, I've been watching some Ghibli stuff. I really want to try and go through as many Ghibli movies as I can. So recently I watched, well, not as much recently now, a few months ago, I watched Ponyo and My Neighbor Totoro. I really liked Ponyo, and it's a really cool kind of interpretation of the Little Mermaid type story that I really liked. A little bit more kid-centric focused. It just makes you appreciate the imagination and joy that comes with childhood. And My Neighbor Totoro is very similar in that it just captures the essence of childhood imagination. And I absolutely loved it for that. It's probably one of my favorite Ghibli movies, but I have been really enjoying them so far. I've been trying to add more and more of them to my collection as well. So you just can't go wrong with Ghibli stuff. So it's all really great. So I've been really enjoying continuing to get into those movies for the first time. I do think I'm going to be watching Kiki's Delivery Service soon and doing a review on that for kind of this anime month over the next couple weeks, so look for that. Probably coming soon to the channel as well. So that pretty much wraps up all that I've been watching. There's a couple other shows that I've been wanting to get into as well. I know Steins Gate is another one that a friend of mine loaned me, and there's many others as well. I do have access to Crunchyroll now, so I've opened the floodgates of anime. So there's all kinds of stuff that I can check out. So thank you for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed kind of my recommendations and what all I've been watching with anime. Look to more anime videos coming to the channel later this month. Thank you for sticking around to the end of this one. I will see you in the next video.